Yeah, I want to do a, dress up, get dressed appropriately. It's an enterprise summit after all. Take this very seriously. So this is a little warning. Expect to leave with questions. If you've seen me talk before, you probably know what that's about. I have another warning. This is, some of this might be misconstrued as a bit ableist or body shaming. I'm going to talk about some stuff to do with bodies. I tested it with some people. If you think that it's something you want to talk about, I'm happy to have a nuanced conversation about what progress and potential mean for anyone starting with personal constraints and goals. That also applies to your DevOps enterprise. By the time we get done, you'll know what I mean. But otherwise, the only advice I have is keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times. So buckle up, here we go. First, a word from my sponsors. Pivotal, work for Pivotal. Our mission is to transform how the world builds software. And now that that's over, my mission, personal mission, is to transform how the world operates software. Okay? You with me? Who's with me? How do you do, fellow enterprise DevOps? Now that that's over, I'm going to take this off. Get serious, yeah. I'm going all the way down. Just kidding. I'm not. But I'll take this off. And then, get into the proper uniform. Yeah, so we got to do this. Very, very serious topic here, DevOps. All right, so now I feel better. With that, I just want to thank some people. So I want to thank my good friend John Willis, without who I probably wouldn't be here today. And I mean that in many different dimensions. And then also, I'm going to give a shout out to my boy, Paul Zarkowski, because this tweet and some of the other conversations we had is really inspiration for this. So really, really quick, I'm going to introduce myself. I hope this narrative, and maybe if you don't know who I am, like someone else will tell you, but I've been involved in a bunch of DevOps-related stuff, and some people say some things. I'm going to clarify a little bit about inventing DevOps, but I've been involved in Puppet, OpenStack, Cloud Foundry, Kubernetes. I've organized the global DevOps days since the beginning, given a bunch of talks about these topics, and wrote a book about web operations. This is a very important slide, probably the most important slide. This is my Twitter handle. And the logo I made for myself, because that's the kind of narcissist I am. But if you want to get a hold of me, this is actually the fastest method. I have open DMs if you want to talk about anything. If you send me a LinkedIn invite, I might get to it a month later, but if you send me a DM on Twitter, I'll get to it. So I also want you to know I come in various configurations of hair and beard. So you might see me some other time in a different configuration. Don't be afraid, it's the same monster. And then I've also, like I said before, given a bunch of talks about some of these topics. So learning organizations, which we're going to talk a bit about today. I gave a talk that some people like called There Is No Talent Shortage, and I gave another talk, blah, blah, blah. So we'll get this out of the way, just one slide. Pareto and efficient Nash equilibria rule everything around me. If you know what that means, congratulations. If you want to talk about it later, I'm kind of sick of explaining it, but it's actually all of your problems. And this is a quote from John Willis. It's one of the best DevOps presentations ever, to which I say, exactly. So this is the most important DevOps stuff. This is a too long didn't read. Learn how to read, learn how to write, learn how to speak. So if DevOps is all about collaboration, communication, let's solve that problem. And then critical for today, you need to live tweet this talk. That little idea. So do that. All right, I invented DevOps. That's absurd. That's literally absurd. Because there's no root cause, right? And like, no one invented this. So this is a series of fortunate events that happened. So I was watching a Velocity talk in 2009. It was John Allspaw and Paul Hammond talking about the 10 deploys per day at Flickr, DevOps cooperation. And I started tweeting things, and I started tagging at DevOps. So this is, in the current kind of rev of what DevOps conversations are, this is the first use of this term in this context. So here I was saying this. There's a bunch of them. You can go read them on Twitter. blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read them all right now. And I already was conspiring with Patrick to have an ops-focused conference, but we were calling it Agile Infrastructure at the time. So this is 2009-ish. But just to frame it, this is 2006, so I'm going to read this out loud. The traditional model is that you take your software to the wall that separates development operations and throw it over and then forget about it. Not at Amazon, you build it, you run it. So that's enough of that quote. But this is 2006 interview with Werner Vogels. Right, so this is the year Amazon released EC2. So this is before DevOps is a word, someone talking about something that sounds suspiciously like DevOps, right? And people copy Amazon. They try to copy like Amazon's features, but like why don't you copy Amazon's culture, right? Like think about that for a minute. This is 2007, so this is Jesse Robbins, and I dissected this blog post. It's basically him arguing. He was running infrastructure at Amazon at the time, that operations is the secret sauce of startups. And there's a bunch of things we could talk about, and there's talks with me, digging into this for 10 minutes, but this is like DevOps 2007, right? And then this is a slide I used to give 2008 in my Agile infrastructure talks about the wall of confusion and traditional IT and basically the opposing forces between dev and ops, right? So this idea that anyone invented DevOps is silly. DevOps is this Darwinian evolution to develop and deliver, right? And I'll give you my definition in a moment also. So 2006, we're going to call this before cloud and then after DevOps, right? So like there's a few years in between. But that's like how I want you to frame this. No one invented it. It's just the truth, right? It's like the gospel, right? So that's what we're going to. So I also think every DevOps conversation that ever had to happen already happened in 2010. But that's a different topic. And it's not evenly distributed. And if you want to have them again in the hallway, I'm happy to. All right, so I invented the DevOps Days format with half open space and half presentations. I'll take credit for that. And then I also think I was very fortunate to be in a place to what I'll call capture the gestalt of this movement, right? And I also, I wrote this earlier, but I basically like have an insatiable appetite for information, and my brain is wired to compress everything into pithy one-liners. And that's like how I roll. So here we are. We've been saying this stuff for 10 years now. Here we are. Are things getting better? Probably. Are things more confusing? There's a guy with a tie on his head. Yes. Are things done changing? No. So why are we here? Digital transformation. I heard this so many times. Oh! So, like, I hear a lot of stories and people talking about how good they're doing. I also talk to people that work those places, and I know, like, it's not. We'll get back to that topic, actually. Let's recap. So we got this story. Here we are. TLDR, you're going to build a software company, dun, 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 or you're going to lose to someone who is. I believe that. TLDR, at least in 2018, with the buzzword bingo of today, you're going to continuously DevOps microservices, or you're going to lose to someone who is. That's the game. And then I also think it's at least worth pointing out, and this goes back to this idea that this is just an evolution. It's a Darwinian force that makes this happen. These are all one thing, right? This is like the new way. This is the cloud native way. Blah, blah, blah. Just words, right? And then we have the other words everyone loves to say. Software is eating the world. Oh, software. Yeah. What happened? I think this is BS. I don't think software just all of a sudden got hungry, right? Like software's been around for a long time. Like there's other stuff happening. There's a real thing happening. So what's disrupting everything are the experiences we can create, right? The experiences being created. And those experiences are predicated on the fact that we all have high-speed network to our pockets, right? Like we have supercomputers in our pockets. We have computers more powerful than every computer on the planet when I was born in our pockets all day, every day. And that allows us to do a bunch of stuff, right? And it's connected to everything. So software is most important when it accomplishes something in reality, right? If you look at all these quote-unquote software companies that are like doing stuff. Uber is a transportation company, right? You know, Netflix, what do? They bring me stuff. Everyone's doing stuff for me. I push a button on my phone, people bring me food. I love it, right? That's awesome. But it's not just software for software's sake. And if you've had a few of these projects, you know that nothing's more expensive than building software that doesn't matter, that no one cares about, right? And like people have spent, for every example you can say, oh, like this software is changing the world and eating this, like you could find, like at least statistically, people say 2/3 of IT projects fail, right? Anyone live there? Anyone seen that movie? So what I believe is happening with software is that every aspect of human performance and experience that can be optimized will be. And then this is a very famous quote from someone you might know. We are not a tech company. The leadership at a company is being disrupted right now. You're not a tech company. Why do you have 1,000 developers on payroll, right? It's like you do this thing. That's cool, but like you want software. I know you want software because you're talking to me. Right? Like you didn't start talking to me because you didn't want software. So this is Andrew, Little Ideas definition of DevOps, trademarked. DevOps is optimizing human performance and experience operating software, and with humans. And I also very strongly believe, the next slide, which I believe is so much I put it on Twitter, right? If the DevOps cabal could all agree on a single pithy collection of words, everything would be fixed. And we could finally all implement DevOps perfectly, right? Just get that definition right. It's gonna fix everything. That's so overplayed. So the last TLDR, and this is something I hope I impress on you by the end of this talk, is you're building a learning organization, or you're losing to someone who is. And I'm going to talk a little bit about learning and what that means. So learning is a sustainable advantage. It's the only sustainable advantage. But learning at its core is changing behaviors. So to make this point, what I'm going to do is make the text really big, and hopefully you'll get it. Learning is changing behaviors. It's not enough to collect trivia, right? It's not enough to have information. It has to be put into practice. You have to actually do things. And then there's no digital transformation. When people talk about digital transformation, what they're actually talking about in all cases is people transformation. Changing the behaviors of the people as much as anything to do with any technology. Oh. So I made a mistake, right? So I gave these talks before about organizational learning, and like those are out there, and I went into deeper things about the 7 dimensions and blah, blah, blah of organizational learning and a bunch of research papers. So I made a mistake, and I feel like I failed. Because I feel like if I did a better job, more people would have tried to implement that or be more vibrant conversations about that. So I got really, really excited about organizational learning, and I told people they should learn. Right? I said, you should learn. You should learn stuff. What does that mean? Right? And what happened, or what I came to realize, is the people that needed to learn the most still couldn't, and the people who could learn the best didn't need to hear me say that. And giving people information they aren't ready for can be worse than lying to them. Right? So like some of these DevOps conversations, if you're not ready to have them, then like it might actually hurt you. It might be distracting. And giving people exercises they aren't ready for can be actively harmful. But I can learn, so I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about me. I can get better. I can change my behavior, right? So this is a story about me. I'm not going to spend too much time. So this is me in the first of the year. So I weigh 234 pounds. That's a picture of me on the Nile. That's actually a different story. I got weighed for my life insurance policy, because I'm an adult, clearly, hello. And I was told I was borderline obese at 234, 6 feet tall. And so I set some goals, and I had a 2-phased approach, or I didn't start with 2 phases. First I had 1 phase, and then like I got there and then did another phase. So I set a goal to be at 200 pounds by May 20th, which is my birthday. And there's a bunch of other things, because I have a fully gamified life insurance policy, which if you want to talk about in the hallway, I'll tell you all about. But I was like, I get points if I get to a certain weight. And if I get to so many points, then my premium goes down. So that's pretty cool. And so then I got to this 200-pound goal by my birthday, and I did a bunch of things, and I'll tell you a little bit if you want in the hallway. And then I kind of plateaued for a while, about 2 months, and then I was like, I have another goal, and I like learned some more things, and I changed what I did, and I got to this. This is on Sunday, so from 234 to 181 on Sunday. Like, it's not bragging. So I lost some weight, but I also lost like some inches on my body. But maybe more interesting for me and my health is it lowered my blood pressure and my resting heart rate, and I stopped snoring, which I don't care about, but my wife likes, right? And really what I did was diet and exercise, right? And I lost this 1 pound at a time, 1 pound at a time. And what I came to realize, and I got progressively more fanatical about what I did. So I started with like, yeah, you know, I'm just going to like change some habits. And so like what I'm trying to say here on this slide is that like when you're borderline obese, then the things that you need to do to make improvements, like you don't have to make 100% right choices to make progress when you're borderline obese. Like if you go from making 0 right choices to 30% right choices or 60% right choices, you're going to make progress. As you get leaner, as you get like farther along the spectrum of what's possible, then you have to make more and more right choices to push that. And I think that's a nice analogy for like these DevOps transformations. Like if you have everything as a potential opportunity to get better, then you don't have to do everything perfect today. In fact, you can't, and if you try to, you'll die. Probably die. I mean, maybe not die, but you know what I mean. So these are progressive improvements, and what I personally experienced as an individual, but I've also seen this happen in organizations, is that we adapt to the imposed demands, right? And so you can, this is like science. So you put certain stresses onto the organism or the organization, and you get to a new equilibrium, and you can progressively make better and better choices. So was this easy? And was it fun? Yes. Totally easy. Totally fun, right? It's awesome. Blood and mud everywhere. But accomplishing goals is a great feeling and gives us motivation to set new ones, right? And so my new goals are, I don't care about my weight, actually. I have like capabilities I want. So right now, I'm just going to make this public. I want to be able to do 50 strict push-ups and 10 strict pull-ups by January. So like I'm not really that close to that, but I think I could do this. It's a realistic goal. And this is my midlife crisis, so I'm just going to keep riding it till I run out of steam. So I implemented diet and exercise. Like that should just make you cringe, right? That should make you cringe. It's not a thing that you just do. It's not an event, right? Transformation is not an event. It's an accumulation of habits, right? You don't all of a sudden have like 50 pounds gone or whatever your goals are, if they're you know, audacious, in one event. It's like you get there by work. So this is what I do right now. This is what I'm trying to do every day. I do 100 push-ups and 40 pull-ups. So we implement DevOps, right? Like I heard that so many times. We implemented the DevOps. Before that, I used to hear we're agile. Why can't you software then? So every time someone says we implement DevOps, this is me. Yeah, ooh, that hurts. So, I mean, I guess you have DevOps now. I'm done. You guys are good, right? So this is not a thing. Implementing DevOps is not a thing. There's no such thing as implementing Agile either. There is literally nothing safe about software. And also, Scrum is a terrible disease. See me after class. So DevOps is never done. You're not gonna implement DevOps and then be done, right? It's not done. I'm not done. And what I want you to take or think about is like, let's not settle for just like this middling result. And this is a video. I'm just going to show you. This guy, like I am not close to doing this. I'm not even like in the universe where this guy exists, but I'm just going to let it go because he keeps going. Like he could do more handstand push-ups than I could do normal push-ups. And like, come on, that is ridiculous. This is the human potential, right? This is our potential as human beings to do things, right? And then, like, there's so many videos you could show of people doing amazing things, accomplishing amazing things. But this is one that I'm attracted to right now, and I'm going to show you a little bit about why I'm attracted to this, because this group of people and the way that they practice is actually influenced the way that I think about learning everything and acquiring new capabilities. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, I put one slide. That's actually the guy's Twitter handle. That's a way to find that video, and that's a link to the video. That group of people is Thenx.com, but I'm also getting a bunch of inspiration, and there's some similar methodologies from these other websites. I'm not going to go into it too far, but the thing that I want you to take away from this is this idea that these things can be accomplished in progressions, right? So the way that the Thenx guys give your training is starting from 0. So this just to explain this is a list of feats by kind of classified by difficulty from beginner to elite. And even some of the stuff that's considered beginner here might be difficult for a lot of people. This is sort of like gymnastics training. It's from a book called Overcoming Gravity. But it's basically, the idea here is like you shouldn't try to do this thing until you can do this thing, right? So these are step-by-step progressions starting for 0. So the Thenx guys, and I have kids, and my kids aren't in the best shape, and they give you a progression from you cannot do 1 push-up. Here's what you can do. You cannot do 1 pull-up. I want you to lay on your back and grab this bar that's about waist high and just pull your torso off the ground, right? Until you can make progress, until you can do 20 of those. And we're going to change the angle until you can do 1 pull-up. And when you can do 1 pull-up, then we'll try to get 2. And then when I first started, I could do basically 2 pull-ups struggling, and now I could do sets of 8. Sets of 8 pull-ups since I started doing this. And the other thing, this is one of the things I love about this book, Overcoming Gravity, is it'll go through and it'll give you a bunch of stuff, and at the end of every chapter, it has this heading. It tells you this, and then it gives you a bunch of stuff. It's like, stop reading, take action. Right? Like, you learned enough. Let's get from the ideas to go do stuff. And then the other thing that these people reinforce is this idea of SMART goals. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. Right? So let's bring this back to DevOps. So this is something everyone, or does anyone know what CALMS is? Has anyone ever heard people say this? Honestly, if you are in DevOps and you don't know what this is, I think you didn't do your homework, right? Like, this is the test. Like, if you want to have a conversation and we start talking about DevOps, and I'm like, CALMS, and you're like, what? I'm like, you're not studying, you're not trying. Like, this stuff's been out there for a long time. It's been out since 2010, right? Oh, this is the DevOps CALMS. So what does it mean? Culture, automation, metrics, sharing. I don't know either, and I certainly don't know what I'm supposed to do. Right? So this is me for the next few minutes trying to take and make this a little bit actionable. So this is the 5 elements of DevOps, and I believe that they interact in ways. And I've given longer form talks where this is like the specific focus, and I kind of go into each one separately. But here I'm just going to give you kind of like the simplified matrix. So this is taken from, this is in a bunch of books now. This is like in the DevOps handbook. This is also in Accelerate. So it's the Western topology of culture. And without spending too much time on it, on the left side, you have pathological. On the right side, you have generative. You know the left side's bad because it's named pathological. And so, you could just go from there. And hopefully, if we go through this list and say, low cooperation, high cooperation, messenger shot, messenger train, whatever, we'll all nod that things on the right are better than things on the left, right? Pathological is bad. So this is a similar progression for metrics. So I think in organization, where you're just starting out, you basically have a lot of stuff unmonitored. Or wait, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. So automation is next, sorry. The left side here is the beginning. It's all work. It's all manual work. On the right side, you have basically platforms that are taking care of things. They're guaranteed to use the infrastructure in specified ways, right? Like, doing the right thing is made easy by the platform. It's self-healing, and you can handle continuous partial failure without any service disruption, right? Like, this is essentially what the SRE book describes. This is essentially what a bunch of these tools are trying to help you get to. Or you could build it yourself like, Netflix did or whatever. And then metrics is the same sort of thing. So things on the left, we can hopefully agree, are better than or worse than things on the right. So on the left, you have everyone SSH'd into their thing, running tail minus F, watching the matrix go by, and like trying to decide if that's a good exception or a bad one, or And then on the right side, you have these observability tools, and you've basically built observability into the software itself, right? You're able to query the software. I feel like cloud-native DevOps-enabled software knows its own health, right? And there's a bunch of talks, the papers from Google about Dapper, the papers from Google about Borg talk about every service has a notion of its own health. You can query the service. There's an HTTP endpoint that will tell you, like, this service is healthy. So this is the far end of the spectrum. It's built in by the developers who have the most context. Moving on, sharing. So in some organizations, what I'll call the old-style organizations, everything is hidden. It's like by design hidden, right? You have these strong silos. Everything's a secret. You're not supposed to share because that's like this our culture. We don't share, right? And there's kingdom building or whatever too. But on the far side, and when I talked about DevOps in other contexts, I think one of the most important things, most exciting things about DevOps is that we're global communities of practice sharing all this stuff, right? And then last but not least, Lean, if you actually study Lean, goes into all of these things already. Right? If you study Lean, it talks about all of this stuff. And we'll just ignore the fact that manufacturing is a terrible metaphor for software. But one of the things I love about Lean and why I like to add it is this idea of continuous improvement. Right? And if just to kind of be consistent, I made a matrix of what I consider like a Lean culture too. So on the left side, there's a complacent culture. On the right side, there's an inspired culture. And I think that we can all agree inspired is competitive advantage, hopefully. Also, this calm sounds way better than CAM, so I had Lean. What are you going to do? So this is the things, and then they mix together, right? So these all mix together in interesting ways. Pathological cultures can be automated, automation can be unmonitored, metrics can be hidden, generative cultures can toil, and good enough can stagnate. So now you have it, right? This is the DevOps. No! Everyone wants DevOps. This is what they actually want. They want that stuff, right? But they want scalability, they want availability, they want reliability, they want operability, usability, observability. They want it all for free without changing anything. And I'm just going to make that bigger, without changing anything, right? So we bought the tools, we got the DevOps tools, and we changed all of our titles, so we have the DevOps, right? And what you got to understand is where you are on this curve of adoption. Because what it turns out is in the early adopters, they're actually motivated to seek an advantage, and as a consequence of seeking an advantage, they get one. Later, what happens, and I used to get really frustrated with this, but now I understand and accept it, it's the normal, is that you're actually not interested in an advantage. You're seeking legitimacy. You want to be the DevOps, because that's what the legitimate people do. So you just change the words. And you don't want to forget how we do things here, right? Okay, but we have to change. Can you tell us exactly what to do? No, I can't. Because no one can tell you exactly what to do, because no one has your context. No one can tell you how many push-ups to do. No one can tell you how many pull-ups to do. No one has that. No one has your strengths, and no one has your weaknesses. What I can do is I can tell you what I've seen. I can tell you what I believe. I can tell you I believe in you. But I can't believe for you, right? But I can't help you set goals, realistic goals. So one weak goal is implement DevOps. That's a weak goal. It's not specific, right? It doesn't tell you anything. Strong goals look suspiciously like SLOs. So your homework assignment is to go read this book, these 3 chapters from the SRE book. Embracing risk, service level objectives, eliminating toil, site reliability, it's free, Google's DevOps implementation, dun, 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 all these things. Good DevOps copy, great DevOps deal, right? Steal that. We should be having these conversations with this language. This is the best language. So this is the SLO test for next time I see you. What are your objectives, and how do you know you're meeting them? So coming to the end, changing the words from DevOps to SRE will not help, right? That will not help. These innovations build on each other. So we've got waves and waves of these things. It's going to keep going. It's going to crash on you, maybe. I actually have those socks on. Whoa. But what you really want to be able to do is surf. You want to surf the waves. But it turns out no one can tell you how to surf either. You have to get in the water. You have to feel it. You have to be willing and able to fall. And the desire to surf must overcome that fear of falling. And in one magic instant, you can suddenly surf. And instant of accumulated progress, and you can surf. But here's a little warning. Surfing is hard. It sucks, actually. I know. Software is also hard. And this is like the people talk about the golden age of DevOps. That's what it felt like to me. This is me managing OpenStack. But the desire to software must overcome the fear of failing. So are you doing DevOps? Who cares? Are you making progress? Are you better today than yesterday? Do you have joy? Do you have ease? Do you have love? Do you get results? Because software is hard, but humans are way harder. And you're probably a human, and humans can learn, and you haven't changed anything until you change your behavior, right? So this is a quote, very famous quote. I don't have time to learn new things because I'm too busy getting things done. That is the least productive person in the world. Don't say that. Saying DevOps doesn't fix your pathological culture. It does not align the interests and incentives. Software is creative. Software is complex. Software is not digging ditches. Software is not running factories. It's closer to art than science. New behaviors are better than new words. Principles are more important than practices, are more important than tools. Your mindset is more important than your skill set, is more important than your tool set. Adapting is more important than adopting. Your why is more important than your what. So this is the end. This is the best methodology for doing anything. Smart, motivated people working together. So this is your call to action. Be smart. Be motivated. Work together. Change your behavior. Change your behavior. Change your behavior. Digital transformation. 1 pound of progress at a time. Thank you. I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to have conversations.